Aspectes mei. Ostende nobis Domini misericordiam Tuam.
Et salutare Tuam nobis.
Domine exaudi orationem mea.
Et amor meus acreveniat.
Dominus vobiscum.
Et custodium tuum.
Oremus. Exaudi nos Domine Sancte Pater Omnipotens Aeterni Deus. Et mittere digneris sanctum angelum tuum de celis, qui custodiat, foviat, protegiat, visitet, atque defendat omnes habitantes in hoc habitaculo, per Christum Dominum nostrum.
Factus est,
Adiutor meus, Deus, Deus.
Iliam te Domine fortitudum mea, Domine firmamentum meum et refugium meum,
Et liberator meus, Cantus est, adiutor meus, Deus meus.
Deus meus adiutor meus,
Estera Domine meum, Cantus est, adiutor meus, Deus meus.
laudabilem invocamo Dominum,
Et ad inimicis meus salvus eo. Cantus est, adiutor meus, Deus meus.
circumdet erunt me fructus mortis,
Et tormentes delia conturbaverunt me. Factus est, adiutor meus, Deus meus.
in tribulationem me invocavi Dominum,
Et ad Deum meum clamavi.
templo suo vocem meam,
Et amor Deus in conceptu eius introitores eius, actus est adiutor eius eius meus.
In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti.
Amen.
Dominus vobiscum.
Et cum spiritu tuo.
Fratres, amuscamus peccata nostra, ut aptisimus ad sacri mysteri celebranda. Confitio Deo omnipotenti, et vobis qui peccati nimis, cogitatione, verbo, opere et omissione, mea culpa, mea maxima culpa, ideo pecor beatam Mariam semper Virginem, omnes angelos et sanctos, et vos fratres orare pro me, ad Dominum Deum nostrum. Miseriatur nostri omnipotens Deus, et dimis peccatis nostris, perducat nos a vitam aeterna.
Amen.
Oremus. Da nobis quesumus Domine, Deus noster, in tua semper devotione gadere, quia perpetua est et plenis felicitas. Si bonorum omnium iuditor serviamus auctore, per Dominum nostrum Iesum Christum Filium Tuum, qui tecum vivere et regnat in unitate Spiritus Sancti, Deus per omnia saecula saeculorum. Amen.
A reading from the book of the prophet Padua. Lo, the day is coming, blazing like an oven, when all the proud and all evildoers will be stubborn, and the day that is coming will set them on fire, leaving them neither root nor branch, says the Lord of hosts. But for you who fear my name, there will arise the Son of Justice with his healing rays. Verbo Domini.
Deo gratias.
La lectura de la segunda carta del apóstol San Pablo a los Filipenses. Hermanos, ya saben cómo deben vivir para imitar mi ejemplo, puesto que cuando estuve entre ustedes, supe ganarme la vida y no dependí de nadie para comer. Antes bien, de día y de noche trabajé hasta agotarme, para no serles esclavoso, y no porque no tuviera ni derecho a pedirles el sustento, sino para darles un ejemplo que imitar. Así, cuando estaba entre ustedes, les decía una y otra vez, El que no quiera trabajar, que no coma. Y ahora vengo a saber que algunos de ustedes viven como ordenados sin hacer nada, y además entrometiéndose en todo. Les explicamos a esos tales y les ordenamos de parte del Señor Jesús que se pongan a trabajar en paz para ganarse con sus propias manos la comida. Palabra de Dios.
Gracias.
Dominus vobiscum.
Et cum spiritu tuo.
Lectio Sancti Evangelii secundum Lucam.
Gloria a
Tui, Domine. While some people were speaking about how the temple was adorned with costly stones and votive offerings, Jesus said, "All that you see here, the days will come when there will not be left a stone upon another stone that will not be thrown down." Then they asked him, "Teacher, when will this happen? And what sign will there be when all these things are about to happen?" He answered, "See that you not be deceived. For many will come in my name, saying, 'I am he,' and 'the time has come.' Do not follow them. When you hear of wars and insurrections, do not be terrified, for such things must happen first, but it will not immediately be the end." Then he said to them, "Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be powerful earthquakes, famines, and plagues from place to place, and awesome sights and mighty signs will come from the sky. Before all this happens, however, they will seize you and persecute you. They will hand you over to the synagogues and to the prisons, and they will have you led before kings and governors because of my name. It will lead to your giving testimony. Remember, you are not to prepare your defense beforehand, for I myself shall give you a wisdom in speaking, that all your adversaries will be powerless to resist or refute. You will even be handed over by parents, brothers, relatives, and friends, and they will put some of you to death. You will be hated by all because of my name, but not a hair on your head will be destroyed. By your perseverance, you will secure your lives." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise be to you.
Alleluia.
good afternoon. Sorry, I dropped my operator. How's everybody doing? Doing good? Great. I just got a couple of announcements, I think, here for you. If you'd like a sample letter, last week we talked about opt-out letters, exemption letters for children in schools for certain things in the schools. And if you have children and would like a copy of that exemption letter, it's on the entrance table as you walk in. Si desean una muestra de la carta de exención de la que hablamos la semana pasada, pueden recogerla en la mesa en la área de la entrada. There's also a program called Soul Force, which is a Catholic alternative to yoga. We're looking for someone, or some people who would like to lead a group doing this program here at least once a week, but you could do it more. If you're interested in doing that, please call me after, you could just talk to me after the Mass or give me a call during the week. I'm just reading it off the paper, but it says my name. So anyway, it's a really cool program. It's a fitness program, an exercise program that has a lot of the benefits that you might experience in yoga, the physical benefits, without all the other stuff that comes along with yoga. Hay un programa llamado Soul Core, que es una alternativa católica a yoga. Estamos buscando unas personas que quieren ser el líder de esos grupos. Por favor, si está interesado, me avise después de la misa o me llame por la oficina. If you'd like to help out with Our Lady of Guadalupe, or if you have children that would like to be in the choir to sing for Our Lady of Guadalupe for Mañanitas or the feast day itself, there are sign-ups in the entrance area. Si quiere ayudarnos con la fiesta de Nuestra Señora de Guadalupe el 12 de diciembre, hay un formulario para inscribirse en la entrada de la iglesia, y también estamos buscando niños para cantar en el grupo de los niños, para cantar canciones a Nuestra Madre María el 11 de diciembre para las mañanitas, y hay un formulario también en la entrada. Hay oratorio juvenil, junior y de los niños esta noche a las 7 de la tarde. And tonight we have junior, youth, and children's oratory tonight at 7 p.m. And that's all the announcements. You still with me? This reading from today's gospel is really an amazing reading. But with a lot of the stories in the Bible, if we don't understand like what the scene looks like and what's going on, it's very hard to capture the power of the words that Jesus is saying. And in today's gospel, the scene takes place around the temple area. And the temple in Jerusalem was built on the top of Jerusalem, the highest point of Jerusalem, which itself is on top of a mountain. And so if you were entering into Jerusalem from all around the surrounding areas, the first thing you'd see is you'd look up and you'd see this big, beautiful temple shining with silver and gold and big, beautiful walls and stuff at the very top of the city of Jerusalem. The walls around the temple of Jerusalem, in Jerusalem, were 16 stories high. So everybody sees the rail, the apartment building, new apartment buildings across the street, right? If you didn't see it on the way out, if you weren't paying attention, look at it on your way out. It's a pretty building, but that's not why I want you to look at it. I want you to look at it because imagine 4 of those stacked up, one on top of the other. And that would be the height of the walls surrounding the temple in Jerusalem, 16 stories high. That building is 4 stories high. And then if you think of the length as this, think of 4.5 football fields lined up one after the other. And that was how long the wall was surrounding the temple. So you had 16 stories high and 4.5 football fields wide. Pretty impressive, right? And the walls surrounding the temple were these huge, big carved stones that were carved by hand that made up the temple. You can see some of these stones still in Jerusalem. But it made up that made up the length and the height of the western wall of the Temple of Jerusalem. The temple was enormous, and it seemed indestructible. It was so powerful and so massive, especially for its day. And inside the temple, it was adorned with all sorts of beautiful paintings on the walls, like in the court of the Gentiles. There were paintings of the oceans and the waves. It really was must have been magnificent to see this live. And then there was a huge menorah. You know the menorah, right? You see it for the feast for Hanukkah. Everybody knows that, right? The menorah. It's a beautiful candelabra. Well, there's a massive one there in the temple as well, in gold. All the tables were made of, a lot of times, I think it's acacia wood, but surrounded and laden in gold or silver or other kinds of precious metals. And then there were beautiful gems and stones that adorned the various things in the temple. It was really an impressive sight. And this is why the apostles, and anyone else for that matter, were so impressed by what they saw. And that's the setup for the scene today. They've just toured around. They've just seen the inside of the synagogue. They're standing by these big walls, and they had this great sense of the beauty, the majesty, and the permanence of this temple. And they're outside, and they're talking about, wow, isn't this beautiful? Isn't that marvelous? Isn't that, whatever. But as they're marveling about all these incredible things in the temple, Jesus points to one of these big carved stones, and he says, you see those? I tell you that the day is coming very soon when not one of those stones will be left standing on another, but all of them will be thrown down and destroyed. It must have shocked the disciples and the other people hearing Jesus say that. How could that possibly be? Jesus is revealing to them something that's going to take place in the not too distant future. In fact, in another gospel, he tells us within that generation they would see all those things happen. And we know that that did in fact happen. When Jerusalem and the temple were destroyed by the Roman occupying forces about between the years 67 AD and 70 AD, there was in fact hardly a stone left standing upon another stone. Everything was completely destroyed. But Jesus doesn't stop there. He doesn't just talk about the destruction of the temple. He says, but there's going to be some things that are going to happen to you as well. In this, Jesus is it's their get real moment. We call it a come to Jesus moment, right? But they are with Jesus, so we can't really call it a come to Jesus moment because he's, you know what I'm saying, right? Because he's the one talking. But it's kind of like their come to Jesus moment. And he says, look, you're going to be dragged before governors and kings. And even some of your children, some of your parents, some of your grandparents, some of your relatives, some of your friends, and some of your neighbors, they will hand you over to the authorities. They'll turn you into them. And you'll be mocked, ridiculed, cast out, beaten, and killed. It'll become so bad that everyone will look at you like you're just an obstacle to them, an obstacle to their designs. But then he says to them, but don't worry about it. Can you imagine that? Jesus just saying that to you? You're going to be dragged before governors and kings. You're going to be beaten. You're going to be mocked. You're going to be ridiculed. You're going to lose everything. But don't worry about it. Right? And he says, don't plan your words ahead of time. The Holy Spirit will give the words that they're to say. And these words will proclaim the truth of Jesus and lead some hearts to turn to Jesus. And that's exactly what happened. What the first Christians, if you look back in history at what those first Christians experienced, it's so hard for us as Americans to imagine what they went through. Maybe if we lived in the Middle East or in different parts of Africa, we'd get a sense of what they experienced because that's still going on with Christians today in other parts of the world. It was not easy what they experienced. Yet they face those things with love, joy, and peace in their hearts. You can read stories of some of the early Christian families where fathers and mothers and their children all together were taken into the arenas to be executed together because of their faith in Jesus Christ. And they went into those places singing hymns of praise to God. There was no anger, no violence, no shouting. Only love and peace and the praise of God. They were full of joy and love, but they refused to comply with anything that went against our faith. They were kind but uncompromising in their faith. Those are the women and the men from this time in the church that all of us have as our example, who we're to look to in a world that is lost, that's growing more and more hostile to the faith. So then how are we to prepare to give witness to Christ in the way that these early Christians did? Well, there's three ways that I want to talk about today. The first one is this: prayer, especially the Mass. If we're not praying if we're not receiving Jesus in Holy Communion, how can God speak to us and prepare us? And the second thing is fidelity. Examine everything and make no compromises with things against our faith, even if that means you'll lose the people and the things important to you. And third, humor. Don't take yourself too seriously. Learn to laugh and help others to laugh. Sour-faced and angry religious people do more damage to the faith than any evil emperor could even dream about doing. These are the ways that we prepare to give testimony to Jesus in a way that is loving and kind, yet firm and obedient to Him. I don't know if in this country we'll live through a persecution like the one the early Christians lived through. Who knows what will happen? It's certainly possible. Either way, we are living through a persecution in many ways, where we'll be called to lose a lot of things that we may legitimately desire in order to be faithful to what we believe. Don't be afraid, but instead face these things and those who hate us with courage, love, and joy. It's a wonderful time to be a Christian today, to have the role of re-evangelizing the world and bringing others to Jesus. Los primeros cristianos dieron sus vidas antes de comprometer nuestra fe, y lo hicieron con gran alegría. Algunos de ellos incluso cantaron himnos mientras se dirigían a su muerte. ¿Cómo nos preparamos para dar testimonio de Cristo en la forma en que lo hicieron esos primeros cristianos? Hay tres formas de las que hablaré hoy. Primero, oración, especialmente la misa. Si no estamos orando, ¿cómo puede hablarnos Dios? Y dos, fidelidad. Examine todo. Cada idea que presenta el mundo, cada acción que se nos pide que tomemos, y mida todo en contra de nuestra fe. Y si va en contra de nuestra fe y lo que Dios nos ha enseñado, entonces rehace la participación en Él. Incluso si eso significa que perderá su trabajo y el respeto de los demás, o una relación o lo que sea. Y tres, humor. No te tomes demasiado en serio. Aprende a reír y ayuda a otros a reír. Las personas religiosas de rostro agrio hacen más daño a la fe que cualquier cosa que haya hecho cualquier emperador malvado en la historia. Esas son las formas en que nos preparamos para dar testimonio de Jesús de una manera amorosa y bondadosa y sin embargo firme y obediente a Él. Entonces, no te desanimes ni tengas miedo, peor aún, no sucumbas al mundo. Ahora nos toca a nosotros traer el mundo a Jesús y traer a Jesús al mundo. Vamos a hacerlo con valor, amor y alegría. Credo in unum Deum. Orate fratres, omnium festum sacrificium acceptabile, fiat apud Deum Patrem omnipotentem.
Crucificat Dominus sacrificium de manibus tuis, ad laudem et gloriam Domini sui, ad utilitatem quoque nostrum totiusque ecclesiae sue sancte.
Concede quesumus Domine, ut oculis Tue Majestatis monus oblatum, et gratiam nobis devotionis obtineat, et effectum beate perentitatis adquirat, per Christum Dominum nostrum.
Amen.
Dominus vobiscum,
Et cum spiritu tuo,
sussum corda,
avemus ad Dominum,
gratias segamus Domino Deo nostro, vere dignum et justum est, ac me salutare, nos tibi semper ubique gratias agere, Domine Sancte Pater omnipotens aeterni Deus, per Christum Dominum nostrum, cuius hoc merificum fuit opus per Pascali mysterium, ut e peccato et mortis iugo ad onc gloriam vocaremur, quanum genus electum, regale sacerdotium, gens sancta et acquisitionis populus diceremur, et tuas annunciaremus visque virtutes, qui nos de tenebris altum admirabile lumen vocasti, et ideo cum angelis et archangelis, cum tronis et dominationibus, cumque omni militia celestis exercitus, hymnum gloriae Tuae, canimus sine fine dicentes. Vere sanctum est Domine, fons omni sanctitatis, ec ergo dona quesumus spiritus Tui rore sanctificat, o nobis corpus et sanguis fiat, Domini nostri Iesu Christi, qui cum passione voluntaria et redretur, accepi panem, et gratias angens fregit, terique discipulis suis tecens. Accipite et manducate ex hoc omnes, hoc est enim corpus meum, quod pro vobis tradetur. Simili modo, postquam tenatum est, accipiens et calicem, iterum tibi gratias angens et discipulis suis dicens. Accipite et bibite exio omnes, hic est enim calice sanguinis mei, novit aeterni testamenti, qui pro vobis et promotus effundetur, in remissionem peccatorem, hoc facite in mem commemorationem. Mysterium Fidei. Memoris igitur mortis resurrectionis eius, tibi Domine panem vitae, et calicem salutis oferimus. Gratias agentes qui nos dignus abuisti, et sare coram te tibi ministrare, et supplices te precamur, ut corporis et sanguinis Christi participes, a Spiritus Sancto congregemur in unum. Recordare, Domine, ecclesiae tue toto orbe diffuse, ut eum in caritate perficias, una cum Papa nostro Francisco, et Episcopo nostro David, et universo claro. Memento etiam fratum nostrorum, quins per resurrectionis dormierunt, omniumque in tua miseratione defunctorum, et eos in numen votus tui admitte. Omnium nostrum quesumus miserere, ut cum beata et redentrice Virgine Maria, beato Iosef eos sponso, beatis apostolis et omnibus sanctis, qui tibi a seculo plaquerunt, aeternae vitae meriamores et consortes, et te laudemus et glorificemus, per Filium Tuum, Iesum Christum. Per ipsum et cum ipsor in ipso, est Deo Patri omnipotenti, l'unitate Spiritus Sancti, omnis honor et gloria per omnia saecula saeculorum. Precepti salutaribus moniti, et benedictione formati, ademus dicere, Pater noster, qui es in celis, sanctificetur nomen tuum, adveniat regnum tuum, fiat voluntas tua, sicut in cielo et in terra. Panem nostrum quotidianum da nobis hodie, et dimitte nobis debita nostra, sicut et nos dimittimus debitoribus nostris, et ne nos inducas in tentationem, sed libera nos a malo. Libera nos quesumus Domine, ab omnibus malis, da propitius pacem in diebus nostris, ut opet misericordiae Tuae adduti, et a peccatus simus semper liberi, et ab omni perturbazione securi, expectantes beatum spem, et eventum Salvatoris nostri, Iesu Christi. Domini Iesu Christi, que existi apostolis tuis, patrem linque vobis, patrem meam do vobis, ne despicias peccata nostra, sed fidem ecclesiae tue, eamque secundum voluntatem tuam, pacificari et coordinari digneris, qui serenas in saecula saeculorum. Amen. Pax Domini sit semper vobiscum.
Et cum spiritu tuo.
Ecce agnus Dei, ecce qui tollit peccatum mundi, beate qui ad cenem advocati sunt. Domine, nostrum dignus, potenteres et tectum meum, sed tantum de verbo, et in habitur anima mea.
Cantabo Domino, qui bona tribuit mihi, usque quod Domine oblivisceris me in finem, usque quod et sagem tuam ame, cantabo oponam consilia in anima mea, dolorem in corde meo per diem.
Usque exaltabitur inimicus meus super me, cantavo Domino, qui bona tribuit vici.
Respicer exaudime Domine Deus meus.
Illumina oculos meus, nequanto dormiami morte. Cantavo Domino, qui bona tribuit vici.
Nequando dicat nimicus meus, prevalui adversus eium.
Leves tutem qui frigulant me, si modus fuero. Cantavo Domino, qui bona tribuit vici.
Ego autem in misericordia tua speravi.
Exultavi volverum in salutari tuo. Cantavo Domino, qui bona tribuit vici.
Oremus. Sumpsimus Domine sacri dona mysteri, humiliter deprecantes, uque in sui commemorationem nos filiis tuos facere precepit, in nos proficiant caritatis augmentum, per Christum Dominum nostrum. Dominus vobiscum,
et cum spiritu tuo,
benedicabos omnipotens Deus, Pater et Filius et Spiritus Sanctus, Ite missa est.